Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use the promo code DNVR25 because when you do, you get 25% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And joining us, as has become our weekly custom, is the voice of the Colorado Rockies on AT&T Sportsnet and the host of the Drew Goodman podcast. It's Drew Goodman.
What's up, boys? How we doing?
Feeling fine. You're out at the ballpark down there at Coors Field, feeling the baseball vibes.
Drew, what is your podcast about? About baseball, right?
About baseball.
And I figured that y'all were tired of me doing the podcast, my once a week cameo from my home. You saw everything you need to see, so go to a ballpark, right? And I found one that actually the Rockies resided, Coors Field. So that's where. No, actually, here's the deal, fellas. When they're on the road right now during these COVID times, we've talked about it. No broadcast travel until MLB, clears, everybody to travel again. And so when we're on the road, we typically are doing the game AT&T out of our studio, which is about 3 blocks away. We also broadcast the Vegas Knights out of there. They have a big hockey game tonight because it went Game 6 with Minnesota. Wow. So we have overlap, and we got hockey stuff going in the studio. So we are actually broadcasting today from our normal place at home. So we're in our broadcast booth at Coors Field, and there's high school games going on right now, and that's why you're going to hear music occasionally and a PA system and cheer.
And we greatly look forward to talking with you from Coors Field now every week, as you've guaranteed. Right? No, maybe not. It's one time only. It might be a one-time only thing, but we like hearing the sounds of baseball in the background and seeing you with the whole AT&T Sportsnet backdrop. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is that's official. That's that's what you get. That's what you get when they put the booth cam on. So if you see any technicians walking by at some point in time, they're the important ones that get us on the air and keep us on the air. So this was fun. I got to you broke up for a second. I don't know, but I coach at Arapahoe also. We got to play earlier today. Had a nice little win over Dakota Ridge. Good ball game. And so here we are. It's like all day at Coors Field, man.
Gotta love it. Gotta love being at the ballpark no matter the situation. Though, of course, it is frustrating that you couldn't be down at Citi Field for these last couple of really quality games for the Colorado Rockies against the New York Mets. Obviously, Austin Gomber flirting with going the distance, and then the return of both Kyle Freeland and Jacob deGrom. We've seen some really good pitching the last couple of days. What stood out to you about just the way these guys have particularly pitched out there in this series so far?
Yeah, I knew obviously we were going to talk about this, and when I was making my way back up here, I was thinking of I don't know, I guess an analogy. And back in the day when I used to do the Nuggets, it was during early period of time. It was when Michael and the Bulls were they were the Beatles, man, right? Wherever they went, that was the biggest show in sport, not just in the NBA. That was the biggest show in sports. And so you would be fired up to, you hope to see Michael do something special, which he generally did, score 40, and you hope the Nuggets won. And in fact, in the 72-10 season, the Bulls 72-10 season, you can look this up, a kind of pedestrian Nuggets team actually did exactly that. They went up like 20-something points in the first half on the Bulls. Michael led them all the way back, and the Nuggets held on in the fourth quarter and won. So the fans got everything they wanted. Michael going off and the Nuggets victory. But that's the analogy. It's like when you're watching Jacob deGrom, and you want to see Freeland do great, and I thought we'll get into that a little bit, but Jacob deGrom is the best in the business, and it's special. And I think anybody who's a fan of a sport or athletics, you love to see greatness. I mean, I'm a huge Tiger fan. Even for those people that may have not been a huge Tiger fan, watching his greatness, it's otherworldly. And Tom Brady, whether you like him or not, watching him. We got the pleasure of watching Peyton Manning, one of the all-time greats. So that's how I look at it. When deGrom takes the mound, if I'm cruising through and the Rockies aren't playing and it's the Mets against the Marlins or the Phillies, whatever, I'm in, man. I want to see this cat throw because it's different.
It's appointment viewing. It's appointment viewing for those starting pitchers. I know, I think it's true for a lot of baseball fans. If the opposing team that's coming to town doesn't interest you, you look to see who the starting pitcher is. And you go, wow, that guy's on the hill. I'm going to see that guy more so than the 8 guys around him. And Jacob deGrom, you're right. He's appointment viewing. And, he tuned up pretty quickly against those poor teenagers down in Florida in the Florida State League. And he looked fantastic, yet Kyle Freeland just as good and just as effective last night in New York.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kyle was amped up for, multiple reasons. One, it's his first start in quite some time. I'm sure that injury scared the dickens out of him when it first happened, and you're thinking the worst. I know I was. I know Buddy was. Everybody was.
Everybody was.
The way he grabbed the back of his shoulder, it wasn't like, hey, I got a little kink. I probably got to come out. I mean, you're thinking this dude blew out something. He's going to have surgery. We're not going to see him again until 2022. I mean, that's where your mind goes. Let's be honest. So for him to be back in such a short amount of time, relatively speaking, amazing. And so I'm sure he was amped up. And then you throw in the fact that he's pitching against deGrom. So, the ball strike ratio wasn't where it will be. But you know what? To Patrick's point, 1 run, 4 innings, they're going to limit him a little bit and bring him back slowly. There was a lot of things to like. I know he was pleased with it after. And and the Mets obviously played it the same way with deGrom. He went 1 more inning. He actually threw less pitches. He threw 63 pitches. That's it. But they're like, okay, we're going to back off.
Yeah. It was Buddy had a comment after the game about the kind of velo these guys were bringing. I had sent out a tweet about how there was a sequence deGrom threw to CJ Cron that should be illegal. Like, not in the game of baseball. Like, you should get arrested for that. He threw him 2 consecutive 99-mile-an-hour fastballs that started off the plate and came back and just dotted on the black. And then he threw him a 93-mile-an-hour slider that started right down the middle and ended up in the dirt. And CJ swung through it, and I just went, I mean, yeah, okay.
I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody that he threw that same pitch at 101.
Yeah,
101, 2-seam. It's not a 2-seam. He throws a 4-seam, but it was moving back. I mean, he locates too. You didn't see anything in the middle of the play. It's not like he just fires because he throws hard. I mean, he locates. He really locates well. Glove side. I was talking about that yesterday. It's usually, a little tougher for pitchers to be consistent glove side. He's out of this world good. Did you see the shot we had of Kyle Freeland after he faced him?
I was just going to say that. I was going to bring that up, particularly because, that was his first at-bat in almost 2 years. We forget pitchers didn't get to hit.
Right.
So Freeland comes off the IL. He's ready to go. And you're like, all right, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with Jacob deGrom on the mound, but then realizes, I got to go toe-to-toe with him in the batter's box as well.
Yeah.
Wow. How about that for a rude awakening in your first start back?
And that's exactly what he said as he walked away. You could hear him or see him mouth the word, wow.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going up there and go, hey, what's this guy got? You know what you're getting into, and you still are blown away literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Look how competitive Kyle is. I mean, he's not going up there going, oh, I got a hit. I'm a pitcher, though. I mean, he's going up there. He's going, I got to swing the bat, just like deGrom does. So, yeah, that was fun stuff. And I just keep coming back to the same thing. If you're like the 3 of us nerds who just love the game and we love greatness, watching deGrom throw is, it's otherworldly. It really is.
Yeah. I think this just is the perfect setup for the one flip side of it, the one other thing that happened, because you're right. He wasn't making mistakes and he was totally blowing guys away, except one guy one time. And that was, for me, the most impressive swing maybe in the career so far, Ryan McMahon. He's got home runs that are like 450-foot home runs, 112 off the bat. All the StatCast numbers are going to be better. but he turned around 100-mile-an-hour fastball from the best pitcher in the game that was out away from him and drove it out to left center field. And as announcers like you have taught me, the phrase is stayed hit. That thing stayed hit. That thing is still hit.
Yeah. You know, Drew, I love how you characterize that, and I may steal that or footnote you tonight, because I think you're absolutely right. And we spent some time talking about the fact that, and it's not talking out of school. I think Ryan would admit this as well, that a year ago, certainly 2 years ago, he doesn't get to that. Maybe he fouls it off, but he can't get the barrel to, you know, a lot of things that were higher end velocity. Well, there's nothing higher end really than what DeGrom brings, and for him to barrel that, and it was effortless. He didn't try to get really big. He just dropped the barrel on it, and we know what a great swing he has now, powerful, and that may be the most impressive one swing, if you will, of his still very young career. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that's I don't think that's an inaccurate way of describing it.
I think anyone looking at the home run leaders, they've probably already noticed Ryan McMahon up there, especially after his big start in the early part of April. But now, again, being in center stage, being in New York against Jacob deGrom, for anyone who wasn't already familiar with the name Ryan McMahon, I think that was almost a star-making performance, or at least a stamp of approval for a lot of people who go, all right, I guess this is the next guy. I guess this is going to be, you know, an all-star, the next superstar for the Rockies.
Well, I'm looking at tonight's game number 50 for the Rockies. So less than a third of the season. You know, you can extrapolate the home runs out, and you're talking about a guy that's going to hit 35 or maybe 40 plus and drive in, you know, 90 plus 100. And some, we all know that so much of you know, the RBI stat you have to have some guys complicit, right? You got to get on base, depends where you're hitting in the lineup, but you know, like tonight he's hitting in the 2-hole. But yes, Ryan McMahon, I think, is opening eyes. And how about the game? How about the play he made defensively yesterday?
Boy, that was about as good as it gets, and we've seen some good defensive plays at third base in our time,
I'd say.
Yeah, and he's made a few. I mean, this year already. I'm not a slave to have a problem sometimes with the defensive metrics. I haven't checked DRS lately, but is he now ahead of Nolan in DRS?
I mean,
I know Nolan's made 7 errors.
The thing is, not only so. Here's a few other.
And I do want to interrupt.
Totally.
You know, none of us do that. We're not going, oh yeah, Nolan's not very good. Nolan's friggin' great. We wish Nolan was still in Rockies purple. It has nothing to do with that, but it's just I just thought it was interesting right now.
Yeah, by the fancy metrics, by DRS, Ryan McMahon is actually the best defender in baseball right now. He's got the best defensive WAR, and he's got Nolan beat not just at third, but he's been better at second base than Nolan Arenado's been at third. He's accumulated more DRS, which, like WAR, is a stat you accumulate, right? So he has been, by the fancy stats, and it doesn't exactly not match up with the eye test, right? And to do it at 2 different positions is another thing that's just like, his defense has really been phenomenal by just about every measure this year. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. And then last night might have been his best defensive play. That was all before what might have been his best defensive play of the season. Yeah.
And I've said this before, and I always qualify it because Nolan's the best defensive third baseman. I'll speak for you guys. We've all ever seen. I mean, you can go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
From an athletic standpoint, and Nolan's a good athlete, but Ryan McMahon is a tremendous athlete.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he's able to make plays like he does at 2 different spots, and if they put him at first, he'd be a plus defender there. I know he doesn't like it as much, and they don't need him there right now. But that's a really that's a useful baseball player that can defend 3 spots at a high level and also change a game.
Yeah.
Even if some people not as big of a fan of defensive run saves, and they like the StatCast version, outs above average. Ryan McMahon, just at third base alone, is tied for first in the NL for third baseman. So with 3 outs above average. So I mean,
who's he tied with, Patrick?
Mike Moustakas, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's doing it really well there. And a fun little stat is, you talk about guys, star-making performance. Only 3 players in the 45 innings that Jacob deGrom has pitched this year, only 3 players have homered off of him. First one of the year against 23-year-old rookie sensation Jazz Chisholm of the Marlins, who are looking forward for the Rockies to play against. And then the other 2 we know pretty well, Ryan Maltapia and Ryan McMahon. So 2 of the 3 guys who've homered off Jacob deGrom this year, Rockies guys. It's not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad. Hold on, I'm marking that down.
Throw it all.
Patrick's gonna get so pissed watching the game tonight. He's gonna go, I gave him all the stuff he's losing now.
Well, you said you're gonna maybe give Drew a shout out. So I'm like, all right.
You know what? I'm gonna have to take care of my boys tonight.
Definitely tune in to the AT&T Sports broadcast tonight. But yeah, so we will, in fact, then this is a good time to toast our Breckenridge breweries or seltzers to Ryan Maltapia and Ryan McMahon for making up 2/3 of the people who have homered off of Jacob deGrom. We toast to them on this day. We get our 15-can samplers down at the King Soopers liquor store, or you can just get a draft version of the beers down at the DNVR bar. And, you get a bigger one when you're a member of the family. Become a member and subscribe at the DNVR.com today. When you do so, you get access to all that written content. You get discounts on hats and shirts and masks, a bigger beer. When you come down to the DNVR bar, access to the Discord channel where we're talking Rockies baseball 24/7, plus following along with the Nuggets and Avs run through the playoffs, and always talking movies and television shows and video games and skiing and cooking, anything and everything under the sun. Big happy family here. We'll also send you a free t-shirt when you sign up and a free stick, holistic stick from our friends at Holistic Wellness. Check them out at HOLISTIK wellness.com and check out all those reviews. Use promo code DNVR30 to get 30% off again after we send you that free win just for becoming a member of the family today. I'll go ahead and do one more of these actually because this just lines up too perfectly. Got to thank our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. Hopefully you were following along with yesterday's show, and if you've listened to Makayla and I, you still got a decent number. But if you listen to Patrick, then you really made out well because he basically had pretty much everything in that game as it went down.
And nearly had the big payout with McMahon and a Rockies win because that was $1,600.
That would have been huge.
You got to find those long shots. You got to find those long shots just in case because, hey, we were halfway there.
Yeah. And then when Villar got his hit, I was like, dude, Patrick, did you watch this game already? But if you've got premonitions, as does our guy Patrick Lyons, or you just feel like you know what's going to happen, or you just like making it a little bit more fun and interesting while you're watching your sports, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. If you're a basketball fan, or even if you're not, it's an easy, low-risk, high-reward situation to use that promo code DNVR and try to turn $5 into $200 in free credits just by taking a basketball team of your choice to win their next game. And if you do, you claim $200 in free credits. That's promo code DNVR for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only, new customers only. Wager paid out and site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Hey, fellas, I'm writing in my lineups for tonight, and I just noticed something. I don't know if you guys looked yet. So the Mets the Mets have no outfilders. They were trying to reach Patrick Lyons. Patrick didn't pick up his phone, so they make the deal for Billy McKinney with Milwaukee yesterday, right? Where do you think Billy McKinney's hitting tonight in the Mets lineup?
Is he leading off or
second?
Yeah.
4-hole.
Oh, he's cleaning up.
As you
Clean
do.
it up for him.
4-hole.
They are.
I have never seen, I've said this on the air, I know. I've never seen anything like this, like the number of injuries they have. They're on their fifth string center fielder.
And they almost lost Fargas on Monday night in that one play. You saw him go into the fence in center field, holding his shoulder, and you go, oh, this poor young man.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's crazy.
Absolutely.
And they're
wild.
still in first place.
Yeah.
Nobody wants the NL East this year, apparently. Nobody.
Everyone you put on the mound sits on 99 miles an hour, right?
You know what? Even Buddy said after the game, right? He said, "I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that where everybody rolled out there was 95 plus, really 97 plus, right?"
Yeah. That
So
was wild.
Absolutely
wild.
It was wild. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. There are some names though that they're rolling out that you haven't seen in a while, like Brandon Drury,
Cam
Maben.
Right, I guess I saw Cameron Maben, and then I heard you guys talking about him being 0 for 20 and stuff.
I think he's 0 for 22, and he was hitting 103 in Binghamton. When you're hitting 103 and you get a tap on the shoulder, the news usually isn't good. But he gets the tap on the shoulder, he's going to the big leagues.
Oof, that is.
Well, a lot of quadruple A type players in there in that lineup, and they're holding it together.
Yeah, there's you're being very kind. There's some AAA players in there also.
That caveat understood. Before we do move away from the diamond, I did want to get your thoughts on Austin Gomber. That's, as we talked about, look, the lineup's depleted. It is what it is. But still, this is a young man proving his way in the game, proving that he needs to be a starter, all of the things, and going out there under the big city lights and almost going the distance, having the opportunity to do something that we don't see Rockies pitchers do very often. And while he didn't get it done, I thought it was one of the best performances of the season by any Rockies pitcher.
I think by and large, he's been really good. And I think I probably said this with you guys. First time I saw him in March, I was really impressed because he can spin a curveball, and it's a true 4-pitch mix. He has a good slider. He has plenty of fastball. He has a changeup too. So I really like him. I think he's a really solid middle of the rotation guy, and most teams are devoid of having a true ace. I think the Rockies have a guy who's really talented in Herman, and he's slowly getting better this year. But if you roll out, let's just be hypothetical. If you roll out 5 guys that are, good threes, or maybe a couple you could say there's a 2, like Kyle was a couple years ago, like Herman generally has been, you're going to win a lot of games, provided you can score a little bit and defend.
Yeah.
And as we know, the strength of the Rockies is that rotation. But I'm a big fan of Austin Gomber. I like how he competes. I think he's got toughness to him, and he's got good stuff. And there's not a lot not to like about Gomber.
Yeah, if you look at his season numbers, it can be a little deceiving because you see him with a 4.56 ERA, and you go, all right, it's pretty good for a Rockies pitcher, if you will. But he entered May with a 6.65 ERA, and for this past month, and this is including a start in St. Louis that I'm sure he'd like to maybe do over again, still was fine, 5 innings, 5 earned runs. But in the month of May, 2.97 ERA across 5 starts. And only 3 walks to 32 strikeouts. Totally putting behind that 7-walk outing on opening day. In fact, he had 19 walks in the month of April, but since then, 3 walks to 32 strikeouts.
Do you know what?
That's the guy you like.
We spend a lot of time talking about ERA, and we also know if you have a couple of clunkers, it's going to really can affect what your ERA looks like. But let's say you go out there and you've taken the baseball 10 times. I think he's 9 or 10 right now. If you give your team a really good chance to win 8 of those 10 times, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
You'll absolutely take that. And, I think one of the things that gets lost in the frustration about the reason that Austin Gomber is here and what led to those events is the fact that the contract is very friendly to the Rockies. He's going to be around for a while. He's got an opportunity to really grow and blossom here. And he also doesn't have that, frankly, if he was a free agent in a year or 2 that they had acquired in a trade who could maybe go, hey, if it's not working, I'll just put my head down and eat it because I'll be a free agent in a couple of years. I'll go somewhere else. I can't deal with this whole Coors Field problem. He's clearly not done that at all. He's going to be, I think, 4 or 5 years left on that contract. You go, you know what? This could be a big piece. And this is, I think, we've talked about it a lot on this show. There's a lot of these guys who you're finding out who are the big pieces of the next competitive contending Rockies team who are here. Some of these guys may be, some of them maybe not. I think Austin Gomber is one of the best bets for a guy who's going to be right in the thick of things when the Rockies do eventually turn it around and are competitive again.
I would agree with that. And they're going to take a lot of money off the books. We know COVID's affected every major league team. From a fiscal standpoint, it'll be interesting to see, how active they are in the next year or two in free agency. But you have a lot of controllable guys that you hope will have an impact. I mean, Ryan McMahon's still very controllable. Brendan Rodgers, hopefully we can continue to see him emerge. I mean, I thought he had good at-bats yesterday. Obviously, he had 2 of the 3 hits against
2 for 2
against deGrom. I have termed it on my podcast that, who's going to be, like you guys are talking about, who's part of the solution. And certainly Gomber is. I think Freeland, it's a really friendly contract with German Marcus, the $43 million deal that he signed. So I always say this, there's got to be baseball symmetry where you have, a quality rotation, you have a bullpen that can get you to the finish line, and you have a good defense, and you have, offensive pieces. You can't go, well, we have a really great offensive club, but we can't pitch worth a damn, where we have a nice rotation, but we can't score in an empty gym. So there's got to be baseball symmetry individually in a when you talk about it from a micro standpoint in a game, and then overall there's got to be that baseball symmetry. So the Rockies, you like their rotation. Their offense has to be better, clearly, and that's where we're getting back to who is part of the solution, and you see some guys that can definitely be part of that.
It's funny how you talk about symmetry and that balance between the rotation and the offense. One thing that we've been discussing on the podcast the last few days is the symmetry that they have just within their rotation. The fact that German Marquez and Antonio Senzatella, 2 right-handers from Venezuela, are kind of 1 and 2, one after the other. Hey, anything you can do, I can do better. They're battling each other in a sense. And now with Freeland off the IL, you got 2 left-handers from America that are going back and forth. And Gomber set the pace on Monday night, and then Kyle Freeland went and picked it up. So I like how those guys are situated a little in the rotation, and all 4 of those guys are going to be around for another 3 years. None of them hit free agency until after the 2023 season. So that is a big building block for this rotation right now, and a lot of symmetry in the rotation as well.
Yeah, and you have to have depth. I mean, we all know, I've said this many times, knock on wood, it doesn't happen again, but there's 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and pitchers get hurt.
Yeah.
So you have to have depth, legitimate depth, not calling a guy up and you're hoping he can get through the lineup twice. I mean, listen, one of the reasons the Dodgers are so great. I mean, they got rid of Kenta Maeda and Ryu, and they won 6,000 games last year in a World Series. They have crazy depth on the mound, and maybe that's an embarrassment of riches, but you're going to have something that approaches 8, 9 deep, where this guy can come up and give you quality innings, maybe more than just a spot start. So, that's where the buildup of the farm system needs to take place.
It'll be interesting to see what Rollison can do once he works into that mix a little bit.
Still Peter Lambert
on
Ryan
the
Castellani.
It's going to be really interesting.
But those guys, and they're still developing. But Ryan Castellani has to be better. He has to throw strikes.
Right.
Rollison, obviously, Rollison just had his first outing, wasn't great at the AAA level. It's hard to pitch in the PCL. You guys have spent a lot of time talking about that. It's hard to pitch in Albuquerque ballpark's beautiful, but there's a lot of runs in most of those parks. But yeah, they need They need Ryan Rollison to be a nice piece. They eventually need Peter Lambert to be a nice piece. They need Ryan Castellani to throw more strikes. He's got good stuff. I saw they just moved Santos. Do you see that to the bullpen?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Chris McMahon's going to be an interesting piece before too long, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. I like his makeup from what I've read about him. I like the stuff, and we'll see how that plays out. I think I hope the three of us are talking a year from now, or maybe a couple of years from now, and we're going, man, that was a really nice second round pick by Billy Schmidt.
One interesting name too to keep an eye out on, and he's moved pretty quickly through the minors in a sense, even though he's debuting this year, is Carl Kaufman, who drafted in 2019, shut down because he pitched deep into the College World Series with Michigan. No minor league season last year. Made 3 starts, pitched incredibly well with High A Spokane, and just made his Double-A start. So. Didn't do too well, but still, you got a guy who, finally shows up on the scene, and already he's in Double-A, and you go, whoa, who is this guy? He could be another one you throw into the mix in the next couple of years, as we talked about, and add to that rotational depth for the Rockies.
What was interesting about him is Billy's son, one of his boys, was playing at Michigan, so he would see Michigan play a lot, and he saw Kaufman throw the ball a lot. So he had a really good idea of not only the stuff but the makeup of the kid. More so than an area guy seeing him, and then a cross checker, and then all right, we're gonna we'll take a look, and you see him a couple of times. I mean, he really had a very good idea of what he was getting, in Kaufman. So we'll see how that plays out. What is Weatherly punched out 10 the other day? You see that?
Yeah, last night. That's right. That's great.
It's Helcris Oliveras. There's a couple of guys, but it's not. Yeah, like you'd like to see some boost to that. But if you get, I really do think there's something there. And then maybe you find these talking about Chi-Chi here in the comments. You gotta love Chi-Chi taking it can only be seen as a demotion. Nobody wants to not be a starter. Ask any of these guys in any sport. You want to come off the bench? Or you want to start? Every single one of them. I want to start the baseball game. Hand me the ball at the beginning of the game, and everything. Chi-Chi could hardly have done more. And people might be tempted to look at the ball game last night and go, "Well, he gave up the 2-run homer. He lost the game for him. That one's on Chi-Chi." And it's like the way he pitched out of the bullpen and ate up innings. With Bud Black looking for guys to get outs. 2 runs and with the number of outs he got versus the flip that we've seen, you've got to appreciate that out of Chi-Chi Gonzalez.
Chi-Chi Gonzalez, one of my favorite guys. Chi-Chi's he's just a great person, man. He's fun to be around. He's just a good guy. He's friendly. He's warm, and he's pitched really well, man. Like you guys said, last 2 outings, and yesterday he was fine. I mean, he pitched middle of the plate with a slider. Okay, guy hit it out of the ballpark. You tip your cap. His last 2 starts were tremendous. So we're talking about depth. You need guys like Chi-Chi who can swing and give you a couple of starts and keep you in ball games, and then go out to the bullpen and eat up a few innings, several days later. Those guys are really they're unsung. When a team wins 90-plus games and goes to the postseason, you go, oh, that guy was a long reliever. Even if he pitches more in losses than wins, he's saving other arms that help you win the day after or 2 days later. And that is never lost on a manager, a pitching coach, or the other 25 guys in the room.
Yeah, he's probably been the most unsung guy since 2019. For this organization for Aaron. And he's had his share of moments. And I got to know, Goody, we, each of our podcasts, we have our favorite coffee retailer, but maybe even better than those two. Have you been to Cafe Chi-Chi yet? Have you had one of his famous cups of coffee down there?
I think 2 years ago I had some of his Cuban coffee, and it's really sweet and it's really powerful.
Sounds like my
listen, I'm taking a few days off to go watch my middle son play in a super regional, and so I have a 5:30 a.m. flight tomorrow,
Ooh.
I could use tomorrow morning some of Chi-Chi's Cuban espresso, man.
There you go.
I'll have to fly some in from New York. Maybe we'll see.
I may have you two brothers help me out and make sure you call my house at 2:30 in the morning. Make sure I get out of bed.
There you go. Oh man, is that Spilly Sully? Are they doing that again? What? And
Listen,
if so, if not, but I want your reviews of their booth work so far.
They're the best. Listen,
We're all biased and we love them.
I think Jenny's coming off paternity leave soon, and she'll step right in there. It's like leaving when you're a parent. The first time you leave the teenagers home by themselves, that's basically what's happening, especially with Spilligus. So yeah, they have fun, and I've caught some of it. And listen, we're in the toy store of life, watching professional sports, having the privilege to do what all of us do. I mean, whether it's this podcast or calling the ball game, like we're going to do in a couple of hours, it ought to be fun. There's enough serious stuff out there, and that's never lost on Spilly, on Huey, on Sully, and hopefully me also. So we'll see.
I was beginning to think maybe the analogy was going to be like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. But it maybe is more like Tom Cruise in Risky Business. I don't know. You got to keep an eye on those two.
I think all those characters apply. I think either one of those analogies would be apropos.
On a semi-serious note about the broadcast, though, I did think it was interesting that they didn't have their dynamic is really unique, and I love seeing Huey in the booth as well. Obviously, he's a little more seasoned at doing it, but when it was just Spilly and Sully, of them not trying to have the traditional play-by-play man, that they really didn't neither of them tried to be you, which I thought was smart, and so I just was wondering what you kind of make of that dynamic of it.
Yeah, they don't like me, so they don't like me. So the last person they're going to try to be is me. I think they made a conscious decision. And I think a smart decision, rather than all of a sudden try to be, I don't want to say something they're not, because they're so bright and they're so capable. They really are going to be able to do anything they put their mind to. But they wanted it to be two guys who played, sitting on bar stools talking about what they're watching, rather than maybe obviously there's still got to be somebody who does the reads and that sort of thing. But other than that, they just wanted to be two ex-players talking about a team they know really well. And I think that's a really smart decision. And not that they couldn't, step over and be a little more traditional, if you will. And I hope our broadcast, when I say our, the ones that I'm involved with, I'm going to be more traditional play-by-play. But it's still, baseball allows for anecdotes. It allows for more extensive conversation about individuals, about a particular play, about a historical event. I think it's one of the reasons that when you're part of announcing baseball, it truly is unique. When it's football, it's play, analyst, back to the next play. Here comes the team. The Broncos are at the line of scrimmage. It's 3rd and 4, and basketball's fast-paced. Hockey's really fast-paced, as we know. But baseball lends itself to being conversational, anecdotal, and that's why I love doing all the sports. But there's a uniqueness in it, and I think a joy to being in the baseball booth that doesn't always exist in the other ones. I mean, they're all joyful to be a part of. But hopefully, I've articulated that right.
Yeah. It is. It's pastoral, right? That's why it's our national pastime, and
right,
like you said, it lends to those conversations. And instead of hearing Norm and Cliff, from the Cheers bar, we're hearing two ball players who actually did the thing, and and you can listen to and rely on them a little bit more than Norm and Cliff.
And then they can go to the left-hander and bring in Mayday Malone.
Hey, there you go.
Phenomenal.
Hey, We always go off on tangents every once in a while.
We're losing the millennials. They have no idea these references are.
If you guys listen to me, you know I do that all the time. Made reference to Petticoat Junction the other day, and that even left you guys in the dust.
Yeah.
Like Patrick called Creasman. He goes, "Did you hear Goodman?" He just referenced some show I've never heard of. I had to ask my parents about it. So
nothing.
Yeah, and I get a lot of I could say I get a lot of shit from Spilly when I do that. But anyhow, Cheers was like, I said when I was on the road for years, I'd always find Cheers late at night, and it was comfort food.
Oh yeah, you got to have those. Cheers, speaking, by the way, of comfort food, you just set me up too perfectly.
I know you're the king of the segue.
Right into some Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu beef. That's my comfort food. Not joking. That's very, very seriously for truth. I believe we've had different versions of Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu beef for dinner each of the last 4 nights since that $200 package came in. We got free shipping on that. Use promo code DNVR10 to get 10% off. We got ground beef, ground chuck, we got bacon, we got steaks, we got award-winning hamburgers. You can do all kinds of different stuff with it. They treat the animal well by not shooting them up with all the antibiotics and hormones and all that garbage, which ends up treating the environment better because, well, get into all that. You can research all that stuff, but it treats your wallet better because it's cheaper, and it treats your taste buds better because it's absolutely delicious. Seriously, the bacon could change your life. It's that thick. If you're not watching the YouTube, go and watch on the YouTube and fast forward just to this moment so you can see exactly how thick the Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu beef bacon is. Again, check them out at HASSELL cattlecompany.com, and don't forget to use promo code DNVR10 to get 10% off. And if you order over $200, they'll hook you up with free shipping. And why don't we go ahead and call it final on these and thank our friends over at Chevalier Mortgage. Chevalier literally is French for protectors of the realm. Mike and Virginia will protect your realm. They will protect your castle. They will help you figure out anything you need to know about financing and mortgage and home loans and all that stuff. Go to DNVRmortgage.com. You can enter to win a free DNVR shirt or hat of your choice. And when you do, but most importantly, you get hooked up with a free consultation to discuss your options. It's DNVRmortgage.com. Mike and Virginia will work tirelessly to find the best loan for your situation. So visit them at DNVRmortgage.com. Enter to win that free shirt or hat when you do, and get set up with that free consultation. You can also call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578 or Mike at 970-412-2472. Michael Chevalier, NMLS number 1931006, and Virginia Chevalier, NMLS number 1910631.
And Goody, if you want to give out your cell number, I'm sure someone would be glad to call you at 2:30 in the morning so you don't miss that flight.
Let me think about it.
Okay, think about it.
Let's consider it. So as we're talking about protectors of the realm and the castle and home loans and all that from our friends at Chevalier, from a couple of people that used to call the New York area their stomping grounds with the team out there. Figured we'd talk a little bit, especially with this road trip, them going to Citi Field and then PNC, obviously, about some of your favorite places to visit, whether it be because you're going to the city, but also particularly the ballparks. I haven't had a chance to be to either of these, and I've heard they're both pretty nice. I've got my own personal favorites as well, but just curious about yours. And also, we know it can vary. Like the ballpark might be great, but maybe the broadcast booth's in a weird spot. So you never I'm curious to see what some of the ones are that stick out.
Okay, well, this trip, Citi Field. I grew up, as everybody, most people know, I was a Mets fan and going to Shea Stadium.
Oh.
And it was when I first, did games there, it was still pretty cool, even though there were like wires in the booth coming down, and it was, it needed to be raised, which it eventually was, but it was still cool, to work there. Citi Field, I think they did a great job at Citi Field. The only thing that's bad, it's not a knock on Queens. There's nothing around there but tire shops. Right, Patrick?
Chop shops. That's it.
That's it. And that's what it's always been. So you get off the 7 and you go over to Citi Field. And I think they did a really terrific job of blending, the history of the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants together. And It's really a nice ballpark. Moving on to Pittsburgh, PNC Park provides some of the great sight lines back across the Roberto Clemente Bridge and the other bridges into downtown Pittsburgh. And downtown Pittsburgh has been significantly revitalized over the last decade plus. It's not Denver yet by any stretch.
Doesn't have a nightlife, really.
Yeah, I mean, but it's getting better. And there are young people moving down there. And it's certainly better than what it was 10, 12 years ago. And there's been a metamorphosis in the Steel City toward, from a commerce standpoint, healthcare is now big, and education, from a commerce standpoint, not that they didn't educate their young. I'm not suggesting that. So
had no schools before.
No. Yeah, no schools. Really remarkable. Yeah, couldn't believe it. Sightlines, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh PNC is a great ballpark. And I think Patrick mentioned this. What about the booths? Well, that and Washington Nationals Park. They put the booths at the very top of the stadium, and they all look like Lilliputians down there. There are balls that are hitting the air that don't reach the height you are. So calling the game is not as easy at PNC. Love everything about it, other than we're at the top of, you're at almost the roof level, and the same thing with Nationals Park. And I love being in DC. There's a great vibrancy. I moved on to Nationals Park, but selfishly, and all broadcasters will tell you this, it was, the booth should not be that high. So,
I was in DC in 2019, and saw that press box. You may get a nosebleed up there. Is the TV production booth above it's even higher than that? So even just going where the press is higher than anything I'd seen before.
Yeah, we're above
that. You guys to be even higher. You're just looking at where the outfielders. You just got to hope the left fielder doesn't lose the ball in the sun, or you're totally going to miscall a home run, because you're just looking at body language to figure out where that ball is.
Yeah, and in Pittsburgh, we're all on the same level, but it's very top of the stadium. So I'm trying to think. I mean, if we went around baseball, sight lines. In the NL West, where I'm sitting right now in our booth at Coors Field, it's great. And I'm not just saying that because this is my home. It truly is. We have great sight lines. It's at the perfect height, if you will, and the press box is below us. So when they built that press box, you're not going to find better place, as you guys know, to watch a ball game than at Coors Field as a member of the media. San Francisco, the booth there is the best. I mean, it's really big. The tables, which are really important that you work at, your desk, it's at the right height. The desks are large, so you can get all your stuff there, etc. Arizona's fine. Dodger Stadium, just because it was built, going on 60 years ago, or it was built 60 years ago. It's booth's a little tight, but it's still Dodger Stadium. It's like when you used to go to Wrigley before. I don't even know if because we haven't been there the last couple of years. That was going to be the last
renovations.
Yeah, are they done? Do you know, Patrick? I have no idea.
I believe they are. Yeah, I believe they did finish that going into this season.
Okay, because they needed to. But still, you put up. I mean, it's really steep, and you're literally. I can't even put my laptop out. I put it on the floor next to me, but it's Wrigley, so you're like, I don't care. So it works. Fenway's great. What did I leave out? San Diego. San Diego's fine.
Yeah.
It's interesting in San Diego. I don't know if anybody cares about this, but the home broadcast booth is now the visiting broadcast booth. I think when Enberg was there, and still obviously when Dick was doing the games, the late Dick Enberg, he thought that the visiting booth was a little bigger, and he liked that one better. And so they moved the home broadcast over there, and they moved from the visitors to the homes. But that works well. We're fortunate. I think everywhere there's good parks everywhere now. Even one of the older ones like Fenway, which I love Fenway Park. Fenway's booth's good.
Yeah. That's good. That's nice to know that they've been able to renovate some of these older ones too to make them more. I do remember being surprised at how many places you could like bang your head or your shins on like exposed pipes at Dodger Stadium and stuff because they're like old, so it's just like hanging down over. It's like, oh, we don't have any of this stuff. But
Industrial.
I did say Vin Scully press box when I walked in, and I like cried a single tear. So I guess you win some, you lose some.
I miss seeing him when their booth is right next to the visiting booth naturally, and you'd walk by and always poke my head in, and Vin would give you a big hello, and you'd go and shoot the bull with the great incomparable Vin Scully for 10 minutes and compare notes, and then you'd see him in the dining room a little bit later, and I miss that because there's only been one. There'll only be one Vin Scully. What's interesting also about Dodger Stadium is, and I don't know if you guys were ever at Dodger Stadium before they renovated all the clubhouses, because the visiting clubhouse, even the home clubhouse until they renovated it, you thought you were going back in time. I guess you were, like 50 years. It was narrow. They were like cages. The high schools have better clubhouses now. Colleges, no question. And they finally, they renovated it. They dug out underneath a little bit more, so they were able to make a legitimate visiting locker room. And on the Dodger side, it's state of the art. But back in the day, you'd go in there and go, "Wow, this is a big league clubhouse."
That is one of the interesting things. If anyone goes on the road, or even if they just do a stadium tour, is going and comparing the difference in size of the home team versus the road team. I actually think the difference between the Rockies clubhouse and the visiting clubhouse is fairly close, right? Again, visitors always get something smaller, but it's a lot closer than some others, right? If Yankee Stadium, of course the Yankees got to have something really big, whereas the visitors clubhouse is just a big square. That's it. And there's like a couch in the middle. Same thing at Nationals Park. It's pretty common to see, what some of these teams are able to get away with at the ballpark. You're right. You're on the road. You're on the road. It's not supposed to be comfortable for you.
Well, a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, the footprint of the clubhouse, it's changed a little bit at Coors Field, but probably just the clubhouse part from a square footage standpoint is probably very similar, as you were pointing out, on the home side and the visitor side. But some of the accoutrements that they have on the home side now, a sleeping facility where you can take a nap, the video room, the expanded weight room,
floating tank,
or the training room, all of that, is top shelf. And the visitors has not nearly the amount, nor should they. It's the visitor side. One note about Citi Field that I don't know. Have you guys been to Citi Field on the home side?
No, I've only been there as a fan.
Okay.
Never as covering media.
Well, they did something that I think is really smart, and it's the only one that I've seen in Major League Baseball. On the home side, when you walk out of the clubhouse and make a right, they have a home plate, and it's a rubberized turf. And then they have a baseline that goes down probably 120 feet, 115 feet. So if you were coming in the game to pinch run, you could run some sprints up there.
Oh.
And do you ever think about this, guys? It's the eighth inning, and a bigger guy gets on, and the manager goes and has somebody run for him, and the guy runs out of the dugout, and he hasn't. You're assuming he hasn't done anything in 2.5 hours, right?
Right.
He kind of stretches a little bit, rolls his neck, runs 20 yards down the line, and then gets to first base. Well, they can legitimately warm up their legs inside, right outside the Mets clubhouse. It's the only kind of running lane that I've seen in a clubhouse.
That it kind of puts it in perspective how impressive it was for Dave Roberts in 2004 in the ALCS to steal second base, because it was also October. It's cold in New York there, so that's even more impressive that he was able to swipe second, prolong that game, and rest is history.
and years ago, before the batting cages and all these new stadium wasn't just, a few feet away, so you can hit at any point in time, guys would go up there fairly cold. Maybe they went down in the tunnel and took some dry swings, maybe some tee work. There's usually a net set up, but there wasn't a lot of opportunity to do that. In Chicago, before they changed things, the hitting cage was out in right center field. Well, you couldn't exactly go out there in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
And both teams shared it. Now, they've changed that. So guys can get loose at any point and get as many swings as they want. I mean, sometimes guys who are in the game didn't like an at bat. They'll go up, and get some swings in the middle of a game. So the modern stadium, I guess, right?
Yeah, I never would have thought. That's actually really cool. But yeah, about a base running spot for you guys to warm up on that. That's
yeah.
So I'll tell you my one. We'll get out of here on this, but I'll tell you my Dodger Stadium story really quick, because the first time.
And then I got one I want to share with you after, but go ahead.
All right.
Yours is going to be better, Goody. Don't worry.
No. It's not going to be Johnny Topper. No.
Go on.
It has nothing to do with Creasman. It has not. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, we want to hear your stories. People on the podcast have heard this one, but it's been a while. My first game covering on the road in LA. It was for that series at the end of the year in 2018 that unfortunately did not go the Rockies' way, but I was out there for that. And, had an Airbnb nearby, and not knowing the area as well, thought I would walk to the ballpark. Like you can do out here, and not wanting to drive and pay for parking and all the stuff. I'm right there by the thing. I didn't realize that you have to walk up a hill for like an hour and a half. I've got my computer and all my stuff and my credentials, and I'm, sweating as I'm showing the guy at the ticket at the gate. I'm like, where do I go to get in? Or in this, SUV with the dark windows. I hear a familiar voice, but not one you expect to hear. Hey man, you need a ride or whatever. I turn around. Is Ian Desmond. Ian Desmond's car pulled up, and he very clearly saw, like, dude hasn't done this LA thing before, I think. It was just like, why don't you hop in the back? I'll drive you up to where you need to go. But he didn't know where I needed to go, and neither did I. So his driver kind of took me around. They dropped me off for a while, but he made sure I didn't have to walk the rest of the hill all the way up. And then I'm still sweating. You have to go into the top elevator at Dodger Stadium, where I'm used to, you go in and you go down. So I finally figure all that stuff out. I get into the elevator, and I'm just, okay, I finally made it. And there's Oral Hershiser just standing in the elevator, cool as a cucumber, and I'm just drenched in all my stuff or whatever in the LA heat, like just exasperated. And I'm only here because Ian Desmond had the kindness to get me in the building. And there's Oral Hershiser, and you want to say hello, but in that moment, nope, you just acknowledge that he's there. You walk into the Vin Scully press box, and so that was my first Dodger Stadium.
No, well, you remind me of a couple stories. So very quickly, because I feel your pain. I've never been to Augusta. I have a lot of friends that have worked at Augusta, for the Masters, right? And people say television does not do it any justice, how hilly it is at Augusta. Well, if you've never been to Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine, you have no idea that, first of all, you can park in a parking lot, and it's like a 20-minute walk to get to a gate, and it is hilly as all get out. Yeah. So if you're down on Sunset and you're walking to the ballpark, and the stadium's right there, I don't want to sit next to you because you're going to stink by the time you get to your seat. I mean,
leather seats and everything.
Straight uphill.
Can't believe you let me in the car.
So two stories, real quick. One, I thought of this when you guys mentioned the Vin Scully press box, which the name of it. And many years ago, I was in LA doing another event, and so I got a credential to go watch. I don't even know who was playing, other than I do know who was playing. It was the Cubs playing the Dodgers, and I come out of the press box after the game, and it just happened to be at the same time that Harry Carey was coming out of the press box, and I kid you not, fellas, there had to be 40 blue hairs waiting to take their picture with this before cell phones, with like Instamatics and stuff, and they're all giving Harry a kiss on the cheek, and he owned like the 60+ crowd. So there's that story, which had nothing to do with baseball, obviously. And the other story that you reminded me of, I have my own transportation deals. This is only a few years ago. Scully's still working, and my oldest son was playing in Orange County. It had a game in Orange County, and so as soon as the Rockies Dodgers game was over, I was running to my rental car and fly, which is hard in LA because of traffic, down to Orange County to catch his game. And so I'm running out, and all of a sudden this car slides up next to me, kind of like your Desmond story. And it's like a Lincoln Town car, something like that. And the back window rolls down, and you hear that beautiful voice. And he says, "Drew," he goes, "do you need a ride somewhere?" Because he sees me running, pulling my bag. It was Vin. And I said, "Oh, Vin, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to see one of my, kids' games. I'm running to my rental car, but thank you." He goes, "No problem. We'll see you tomorrow." Right. Yeah.
Oh, and this is why you're a great father, Goody, because I wouldn't have been able to pass it up. I'd have said, you know what, wherever Vin's going, I'm going. That's a better story. My son will understand. He has a game tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get this opportunity to ride with Vin. That's why you're a good dad.
Yeah, Vin, I was going to go to your house in Brentwood, and wow, since you're here, do you mind taking me to your home?
Yeah, why not?
What were the odds? Well, that's we're not going to beat that, so that means you got.
No, and I wasn't doing that for the Giant Top. I love your story because it's perfect Creasman stuff. Oh yeah, I'll just roll up to the ballpark like it's we're like I'm staying down the road from Busch Stadium where you can just walk in pretty quickly,
right?
Downtown St. Louis. So I really like that story.
And I couldn't resist. I had to look it up. It's probably about a 13-story walk up to go from the street to get up to Dodger Stadium by foot. It's like 130 feet.
Yeah, it's no joke.
Yeah.
It's no joke, and it's long.
Yeah. I learned a valuable lesson that day. A couple of them.
So next time, rent a car and sleep in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And be ready to take and jump in any car that someone rolls their window down and offers you a ride. Just take it because it might be your last chance.
It's the magic of that parking lot. Right. All right. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us today for this. This was an awful lot of fun. Got a couple more here against the Mets and then off to Pittsburgh. Keep watching the Colorado Rockies on AT&T Sportsnet. Keep listening to the Drew Goodman podcast because this one's over. So go to your podcast app, download the newest Drew Goodman podcast, listen to all of them, go back into your back catalog, get all that going.
Drops tomorrow morning. You got a new one tomorrow morning?
Yeah, you know what? I got a guy I think you guys know. I'm pretty sure you guys know him. He left town a few years ago. He co-authored my book with him, Ben Hockman, who's with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch now, great columnist. And we talk about, the Avalanche series over St. Louis. We talk about Nolan. We talk about a number of different topics that I think will be really interesting.
And for anyone who doesn't know him, he's kind of a character too.
I was going to say he is a highly entertaining person.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. He is really good dude.
Only met him once in real life, but been a follower of his work for a long time. So check that out for sure.
Listen.
Make sure you're following everyone on social media at Patrick D. Lyons, at Drew Creasman, at Drew Goodman 42, and of course at DNVR_Rockies. Subscribe to the DNVR.com so you do get all that written content, the discounts on the hats, the shirts, the masks, the bigger beer down at the DNVR bar, the free shirt, the holistic stick, the whole kit and caboodle. Got to use my old guy phrases as often as I'm good. Kit and caboodle, I think, works for me. So, all right. Thank you all for hanging out with us for this one. It was a lot of fun. Keep being absolutely awesome out there. We promise to keep being absolutely Patrick Lyons, Drew Creasman, and Drew Goodman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.